Good evening. Tom from Golden Goal here. How exciting is that? We've got an intro. Spent my bank holiday Monday knocking that one up on Canva. Shout out to Canva, by the way. If anyone is looking for like an easy way to make like a short video, a YouTube intro, have a look at Canva because there are lots of like free templates. Yeah, I managed to find that one completely free of charge and just knocked it together yesterday, and yeah, gives us a bit of identity. I think we got a little theme song in video to introduce our videos now, so I'm really happy with that. Yeah, just to introduce this one quickly, quick bonus episode all about Fantasy Premier League. Yeah, just completed game week 8 and obviously into the international break now, as I'm recording this. In terms of how I did in game week 8, I was in a fortunate position where I was really quite happy with my team, and I could field 11 players during that blank game week without actually hitting the wildcard button like most players probably did. I went Harrison Reed deep in my team, put a tweet out about it. But yeah, as you all know, Harrison Reed deep seemed to work quite well in my favour. From what I gather, he played over 190 career games, and I think before last weekend he'd only scored 4 goals. So yeah, the 1 week that he starts in my team, he scored. So yeah, really happy with that one. And yeah, in this video, I'm just going to go through a quick little view of my game week 9 wildcard team. And then there were a couple of positions which I myself found particularly difficult to choose between. There were like a couple of different options at different price categories, particularly in the goalkeeper and striking positions. So what I thought I'd do is do a little comparison between the options that I was considering in the hopes that that might help you make a decision. So let's get right into it. So first up, I had 2 goalkeepers to choose from, really. First up, we had Nick Pope, and second, Guaita. Now, I mean, Nick Pope, I would suggest, has probably been the more reliable of the 2 coming into this game week, consistently picking up saves, bonuses, and clean sheets. Guaita probably hasn't had the best start defensively with Crystal Palace, but what I would also say is they haven't had the easiest fixtures either. And looking forward anyway, it's really hard to ignore those Guaita fixtures. If you get through that Chelsea game week, which I've got a plan to cover, then you go into Leeds at home, Leicester away, Wolves at home, Everton away, Southampton at home, West Ham, who can't seem to really score at the moment, and then Forest. And that takes you right up until the World Cup. Obviously, we have a period of unlimited transfers anyway. And then for Nick Pope, he's got Fulham, Brentford, then he goes into United, Everton, Tottenham, Villa, Southampton, Chelsea. So those fixtures are pretty good. But I don't have him at this point, and he's already risen to 5.2 million. So for me, I think it's worth a go on Guaita at 4.5. And I will personally be either backing him up with Begovic from Everton or Iverson from Leicester. My thinking is that Ward is likely to get dropped now. Conceded the 6 goals for Tottenham. And I can't say that they were all his fault, but certainly some of the goals I feel like he could have done better for. And just like when the ball's at his feet, etc., he just looks really nervous. So I think I'm going to go with Guaita backed up by Iverson as my 2 keepers. So yeah, hopefully it's not done anything particularly obvious, but what I've done there is a quick comparison between the 2 options and pick the one for the best price with the best fixtures. And another one, I think, just to note on Palace, although they haven't had the best start defensively, they've only conceded more than 1 goal to Man City, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, that suggests that they're not doing too bad defensively. And with those fixtures coming up, you'd like to think he'd pick up 4 or 5 clean sheets from that run. So yeah, I'll talk no more about that. I think I'm going to go Guaita in net. So the next one, really, I'm going to flash quite a few things up here. But the next one really was just strikers. So I found that I had about 7.5 in the bank for a striker. which left me, well, in my opinion anyway, with two favourable options. So I had Alexander Isak from Newcastle and Ivan Toney from Brentford. And what I've done here is just taken the fixtures from the Fantasy Premier League website, nothing too fancy. And then I've pulled out some expected goals performance stats from a website, fbref.com. I'd recommend that website for anyone looking for these stats about any Premier League player. You can just search for pretty much any top flight footballer, filter the stats by competition, by season, and then you get a table like this. So it shows you his play time, how many goals, assists, like the basic stats. Then it goes a bit more into expected goals, non-penalty expected goals, expected assists, etc., which really helps you. We had a bit of a debate on Twitter I saw yesterday between analytics and Grass FC and what have you. My stance on that, I fit in between the two. I judge based on both a bit of eye test and a bit of stats. But I think picking between Toney and Isak was really difficult. Looking at the fixtures, I mean, to be completely honest, I think both Newcastle and Brentford have really comparable fixtures. Obviously, Brentford have the most difficult game of all, Man City away towards the end of this period to the World Cup. And Newcastle have a couple of toughies, Man United and Tottenham mixed in, and obviously Chelsea at the end. But I just fancy both players to pretty much score in all those games, like they could well do. I don't think Man City away is a game that Ivan Toney can't score in. The same with Chelsea, United in Tottenham for Isak. So I think their fixtures are quite comparable. The only thing that I thought could differentiate is the deeper expected goal stats. And when you look into the stats in a bit more detail, it does sort of show a bit of a preference to one player. And that guy's Isak. Now, I know, obviously, Isak's only played 3 games compared to Toney's 7. So obviously the data available is slightly less. But if you look at the per 90 minutes stats, so Isak is on 0.81 XG and Toney's on 0.39. Assists, Toney's slightly higher, as you can see, he's on 0.27 to Isak's 0.12. And I know both of these players seem to be on penalties, but Isak's non-penalty expected goals is 0.52 per game, per 90 minutes, and Toney's is 0.28. And a combined non-penalty XG and assists, 0.65 for Isak and 0.55 for Toney. So the underlying stats are suggesting at this stage that Isak is going to be a bit more prolific than Toney. So yeah, you can review those stats at your leisure. Go on that FBref website if you want to look at some more players in some more detail. But that was one decision that I've had to make, and I think quite a few other wildcarders at this stage probably will too, with the money available. 7.5-ish and below. You got Toney and Isak as your 2 options. Who do you pick? And I think based on those stats, I'll be going for Isak. Now, the one thing to think about is obviously Toney has no competition at Brentford for his position. You can see there 7 matches played, and he's played 630 minutes. So he's played 90 minutes each game, whereas Isak has already had a couple of starts there where he's been subbed. And of course, Isak also has Callum Wilson to contend with in the Newcastle squad. And to be completely honest, I think both Isak and Wilson are of a similar ability in terms of strikers. So I think that position could become quite competitive. But for the time being, I think you save yourself 0.2 million by going Isak as well. He's only 7 million compared to Toney at 7.2 at the moment. I just think those stats show that Isak is a better pick. And looking at the fixtures, I think I slightly prefer Isak's to Toney's. That might be a controversial thing, but I think I do. I slightly prefer Isak's fixtures there to Toney's. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Again, there's just 2 players compared by stats there, quite simply. But yeah, it certainly helped me make a decision on who to pick. And that leads us nicely into my wildcard team. It's got Toney in it. You have to ignore that. I'm gonna leave it in because that was an honest mistake. But it's currently has Isak in it. I took this screenshot when that's funny. I took this screenshot when I still had Toney in there. But I did the stats comparison between Isak and Toney post taking this screenshot by the looks, and went with Isak. And I've had those thoughts about Ward and Iversen since I put this together as well. I actually think that Iversen should be is the best backup keeper. So I'm gonna go for Iversen and Isak there as the two. But yeah, just talking you through that team, I think I've already justified Guaita. Reece James, Chelsea have just excellent fixtures right up until the World Cup. And yeah, I don't think, whichever manager he plays under, I think Reece James is pretty much guaranteed to start whenever he's fit, and always carries some attacking threat. So yeah, expecting some clean sheets and attacking returns from him. I've gone for Patterson from Everton. I just think that he is the pick of the 4.0, well, he's 4.1, but that sort of level of defender. I think Everton have proved over the last couple of fixtures they seem to have tightened up a bit defensively, whereas Forest are conceding, well, they just don't look very good at all defensively. So I think Patterson takes the edge over Williams for that cheapy defender spot. And then I've just gone for Cancelo, Trippier and Trent. I don't think Cancelo and Trippier need too much introduction. Man City, I think statistically the best defence in the league. Cancelo is, brings a lot of attacking threat. Trippier, obviously Newcastle aren't the best defence in the league, but we saw last week in the game against Bournemouth, even if Newcastle concede goals, Trippier could be there with some attacking returns. So obviously got an assist in that game via Bournemouth, and he also hit the post from a free kick as well. I mean, he's right up there with Ward-Prowse, I think, in terms of dead ball shooting. I mean, yeah, obviously scored a wonderful free kick earlier in the season. I think it was against Man City, wasn't it? Or I can't remember now. But yeah, he scored a wonderful free kick at the start of the season. And yeah, he carries that threat into every game. So for that reason, he's in my team. And then I've gone back to the tried and trusted Trent Alexander-Arnold for my fifth defender. Sorry, I just think that there's a bit of a redemption arc for Liverpool. They've had a pretty torrid start to the season defensively, but I just think Trent is always there. Doesn't have a lot of competition for his position, which, to be honest, I think is one of the reasons why he hasn't had a great start to the season, because he's constantly, not worrying about his place in the team being threatened. But yeah, I just think the Brighton game post the international break I just have a feeling that Liverpool are gonna do really well in that game, and for that reason, I've picked Trent. Into the midfield, I've had Martinelli since right at the start of the season, and I'll be continuing to have him post this wild card. Yeah, I just think, even though he blanks in game week 12, I think it is, vs City, I just think he's the best pick at that price. He looks absolutely electric on the counter-attack. He seems pretty nailed in that Arsenal team, and yeah, playing really well, so I can't really ignore Martinelli there. Then I've gone back to Mo Salah. Going into game week 8, I transferred him out for Kevin De Bruyne, purely because obviously Salah had the blank, but yeah, he's coming straight back in my team. A similar story to Trent, really. I just have a feeling that the Brighton game is got a bit of a redemption arc to it, much like Son had against Leicester. I think Salah could do really well against Brighton. Obviously, providing he goes through the international break injury-free. But yeah, I just have a feeling about him against Brighton. Next up, Maddison. I'm quickly going to flash up the fixtures over this team. But if you look at these Leicester fixtures, you see down on that list, Leicester, they got Forest, Bournemouth, Palace, Leeds, Wolves, City. Obviously a difficult game, but I could look to bench Maddison for that one. And then Everton, West Ham. I mean, all of those fixtures you suggest Leicester can score in. And Maddison looks really fundamental to their attack. The goal he scored against Tottenham, it was ridiculous. I don't even think it was a chance. So that's like the level of chance that Maddison needs to score a goal. So yeah, I really like Maddison for that. And then I've got Andreas and Bailey as my two sort of backup midfielders there. I don't think they need really any introduction. I think they're the two best for around that price tag. So Andreas obviously been quite reliable with goals, assists and set pieces for Fulham. The one comment I would have is that now Willian has signed for Fulham. In the game that they played weekend just gone, I think Willian took some of the set pieces off of Andreas. So that's just one thing that I think slightly decreases Andreas's appeal. But to be completely honest, I think even if he doesn't have set pieces, he's still a good option for 4.5. Playing in the number 10 position every game he seems to be starting, I just think he's a great option. And then we got Leon Bailey. Again, I had him right at the start of the season, much to my disappointment, because he didn't seem to play all the games. But I just think for this price tag, he's a great pick. He certainly might not start every game, but my hope is at least that I can scroll Twitter, find some early team news, and if he looks to be playing on a week that I have him, that I need to start him, then he'll be straight in my team. I just think Bailey is great at that price, and he can just sit on the bench, can't he, and come in for someone if they don't start. Onto the dodgy front three that I put in incorrectly. So forget Toney there. You've got Isak. I've got Isak in my team for the reasons I mentioned previously. Mitrovic, to be honest, I think more than anything, the ownership is going to scare me into having him. I just think that any goal that Mitrovic scores that I don't own him for up until the World Cup is going to really hurt me. And to be quite honest, I think he's probably the best value striker in the game. Up until the game just passed, his stats were comparable with Harry Kane. He's been playing at that level since the start of the season. And yeah, he just looks absolutely unbelievable. He absolutely destroyed Liverpool in the first game of the season, and he's kicked on from there, really. I was just thinking of players in the Premier League that I wouldn't want to mark as a professional footballer. One of them's Saint-Maximin, and the other one is Mitrovic. I just don't know how you deal with him, like the power and strength that he has to win headers, etc. I just don't think you can match him. So for all those reasons, he's in my team. And then obviously the Norwegian meat shield himself, Erling Haaland, is my final player. Again, I don't really think you need to talk too much about Haaland there. He's been the best player in the Premier League this season. Well, at least the best goal scorer anyway. That's the thing with Haaland, isn't it? I don't know. Can you call him the best player in the league this season? I know he's scored a ridiculous amount of goals, but if you look at all the goals, I don't know. That's all he does, isn't it? Just sit in the box and tap it in. But, well, albeit sometimes spectacularly. But that's all they need him for. And certainly in FPL, that's all you need as well. If he can keep doing that for the rest of the season, I mean, we're talking potentially 40 plus goals, which is unheard of in the Prem. So, yeah, Haaland's straight, never left my team. Anyway, he's straight back into it on the wild card. And I think that's it. Just a little quick talk through a couple of decisions I had to make around the goalkeepers and the striking position in my wild card. And then, bar Toney, a quick look at my wildcard team there. Again, no promises that this won't change, but hopefully it gives you a bit of an idea of how I'm thinking going into the international break. So yeah, we'll leave it there. Cheerio.